This is Tibet Unfiltered, real stories, real Tibet. Unfiltered conversations, eyewitness accounts, and deep dive investigations that challenge the Chinese Communist Party's narrative on Tibet. I'm your host, Geraldine Nordfeldt. I'm a former journalist and board member of the Australia-Tibet Council, with production by Sonam Gyaltsen. As the Dalai Lama said, in our struggle for freedom, truth is the only weapon we possess.
My commitment, I try to share the ancient knowledge about how to develop peace of mind. Not talking about God, not talking about next life. This very life, how to build peaceful mind.
That was His Holiness the Dalai Lama in a brand new film, Wisdom of Happiness. Part biopic, part interview, Swiss filmmakers have been granted rare, exclusive access to His Holiness, marking his 90th birthday. In these new interviews, he speaks not just as a Nobel laureate and Buddhist spiritual leader, but as a member of our single global community. And he shares a timeless truth that happiness, peace, compassion, and hope is still possible, even in a world filled with chaos and uncertainty. Joining us online from New York City now is director Barbara Miller. Barbara, welcome to Tibet Unfiltered.
Hello to everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Congratulations on your beautiful film, Wisdom of Happiness. Could you tell us how this film came to be?
Yeah, we really wanted to do a film where we have only the Dalai Lama speaking and especially talking about our, let's say, really challenging times and how we can find ways to deal with what is going on in the world. And we started like almost 6 years ago. And we had the chance to work together with Manuel Bauer. He's a longtime photographer. I think since 35 years, he was the personal photographer of the Dalai Lama. And he's Swiss. And we met him and he said, for the really first time, he will do cinematography. If we manage to do this film, he will do cinematography. And that opened us the door to had probably the chance to do the very last interview with the Dalai Lama because he's quite old. And in the beginning, his entourage said no, that he won't do any interview anymore. But then knowing Manuel and having this connection of trust, we managed to start our journey, our long journey to do Wisdom of Happiness there with this interview with His Holiness.
That was actually my next question. Was it difficult to get His Holiness and his team on board and to trust you in this project? But it sounds like Manuel was crucial for that.
Yeah, Manuel was totally crucial for that because, of course, there's a lot of people who want to help Tibet and who want to also do documentaries. I mean, there are over 80 documentaries with the Dalai Lama, and we really wanted to do something special. We wanted to have a film where only the Dalai Lama talks and where he looks directly into the camera, because we try to create this, in a way, one-to-one session that all he has to tell us, which is so important for today's world and which is so modern also, even if it's really, really old knowledge. We wanted that when the audience is watching the film, they really have this personal interaction. And that's how it all started with the interview. And then we had Manuel traveling to a lot of places in the world to get the images that it's not a teaching, but that the audience can feel what His Holiness really want to give us and tell us and help us to guide through this 21st century with all its craziness.
Absolutely. And the film opens with a behind the scenes moment of His Holiness actually being mic'd up and prepared for the interview, and someone even mops his face with a tissue. And that moment made me gasp. I was like, who touches His Holiness? But he seemed so relaxed and gracious. You know, what was he like as talent to interview?
I mean, it's incredible. We went up to Dharamsala, where he's living since 60 years in exile. And it was quite difficult to bring all the gears up. We had the Indian crew coming up with a huge truck, and in the mountains it's not so easy. We had a Swiss film crew, and we were able to prepare for 2 days for this very decisive moment of the interview, and everyone really nervous. And in the moment His Holiness came in the room, it totally changed. We all relaxed, because he's such a relaxed, kind, open personality. He smiled at everyone, he touched everyone's hand, greeted everyone. So we really felt at ease. It was so easy to be in his presence, this feeling of kindness and love, and really this being on the eye level. He really, what he's teaching, that we are all the same, he really lives that, and you can really feel it when you're close to him. And then I had to ask him if I'm allowed to put some powder on his face, because of course if you have the strong lamps for filming, people are shining, so it's important. And he made some jokes. He asked me if I also brought some lipstick for him. So it was really, he's such a wonderful human being. I mean, it was really so beautiful, to interact with him. And then when he sat down for the interview, he was so concentrated and so clear and so warm-hearted. I mean, it's really wonderful to meet human beings like that.
Would have been amazing. It was a wide-ranging interview about the biggest questions facing humanity, the climate crisis, how to live in this modern world. How do you decide which responses to include in the film?
I mean, it was really special because when the Dalai Lama entered the room where we prepared everything, Manuel and his entourage, who know the Dalai Lama very well, said, today he doesn't feel so well because he was sick before. He had a flu. And instead of the 3 hours I prepared for the interview, he told me, well, probably it's only an hour where he will be talking, that he's not exhausted too much after the interview. So for us, and I think also for him, it was important to really bring his most important messages and advices for us across, how we can deal with our negative emotions, how we can deal with our fears, also in the actual situation, how we can find a way of feeling at ease, finding inner peace. So I think we have used probably 95%, when not even more, of the interview we had, because it was so precious. And then we transcribed all the most important speeches of His Holiness from the last, I think, 40 years. And to find these little bits and pieces we needed to combine it and to have this dramaturgy, which brings you from one topic to the other. So we almost used everything he said in this interview.
That's wonderful. The film also includes some beautifully restored archival footage of His Holiness as a young child and a young man walking around the mountains. Where did you source all of those old images from? And again, how do you decide what to use?
Yeah, I mean, with the archival material, it was really special because we were taking bits and pieces from the films, from the existing films that there are around, and we always thought that the quality isn't so really, really good. And we were in contact with the archive of the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala, and we always told them, if you find a box with some old footage, please let us know. And when we already were quite into, let's say, 2/3 through the film, there was this call, and they told us we found a box with really old film rolls, that some of them are already kind of deteriorating. And we suggested to digitalize them in Switzerland, because there's one of the best labs in the world. And we had the problem that there was no company who agreed to bring this material to Switzerland, because they said, wow, it's cultural heritage, we can't take the risk. So in the end, it was the General Secretary of the Dalai Lama personally, who brought this material to Switzerland. And I mean, they were working, opening these old rolls with gloves, with really in places where it's kind of, let's say, sterile for not damaging these rolls. And they managed to digitalize everything. And I mean, there was images which have never been digitalized, so which are really new, never been seen before. And we managed to give back this whole material digitalized in a safe way, so that now for the next generations to come, the archive has really this material which will survive the next, hopefully, hundreds of years. And seeing this material, because what was so amazing is that it was shot on film. It's not digital, it was really shot on film. And having it on the big screen, it was like from today. I mean, we were so astonished seeing this incredible quality. And I mean, it was such a incredible luck also that the Dalai Lama, from childhood on, there were people who were filming, who tried to make images of his life. And it's an incredible treasure to have that, seeing the Dalai Lama still in Lhasa as a child, as a young man, how he grew up. It's so touching to see that, and seeing that it's still here, and we can watch it, and there's him going up with some friends on a mountain, and really also like this day-to-day life, like you have never seen him before, and for us it was really wonderful to have the chance to have this material integrated into Wisdom of Happiness.
Absolutely. What a treasure. What a find in a box like that. That's incredible. And it adds so much to the film. It really does. The Dalai Lama's voice narrates the entire film, but it didn't feel like we were watching his interviews for too long at all. The editing is superb, and the cinematography really complements what His Holiness is saying, and yet it also tells its own story. There were stunning frozen lakes and mountains, and it's surprisingly moving scene with a baby deer. Where was all of that filmed?
We combined different things. I mean, we had images where really Manuel went to Ladakh, which is in the Himalayas, which really looks like Tibet. So we really wanted to integrate images that really look like Tibet. And I think it's really the favorite place of His Holiness, where he goes whenever he has this need to feel close to Tibet. We made images in India. Some of them are in the Swiss mountains, because, of course, in the beginning we thought maybe we will travel with His Holiness still, because I mean he was traveling for so long all around the world. But then COVID hit, and it was clear that he won't travel anymore. So we really tried to find images to transport what His Holiness is telling us, that we can, let's say, make like an inner journey and integrate his knowledge and his wisdom and his love and his care. And so I mean, the images are coming from all over the world. They're the images on the end is from Croatia. So we were really in different places to make this, let's say, maybe love for humanity, this compassion His Holiness has for all of us, really tangible. And we tried to combine it with music, that you can really have this feeling of immersing in it. The music, this was something that Richard Gere and Ora Moorman brought. It's a young American composer, Ariel Marks. And when we asked her if she would do the music, compose the music to the images we already had, she was almost giving birth, and she watched the movie and said, well, okay, I will give birth, and 2 weeks later I will start working on this film, because we already had set up the moment where it will be the world premiere, and she did an amazing job. I think it's really so wonderful, and you can feel this young woman who just gave birth, giving all her knowledge and love and care for the world into the music she created.
It's beautiful. How much input did His Holiness or his office have in crafting the message of the film?
They left us totally, it left it totally up to us what kind of questions we wanted to do, or how we would structure the film. Of course, before we did this interview and we created the film, we watched a lot of speeches of His Holiness. I mean, I grew up with His Holiness since childhood. My mother took me already as a child to the events when His Holiness was in Switzerland or in a near country in Europe. And so for me, yeah, he was always a figure that was really important in my life. So I knew a lot of his teaching, but of course, looking at him from a Buddhist side, I mean, he's such an intellectual. I mean, this is far too complicated in a way. If you're not really studying Buddhism, it's so complex with all the science aspects, with quantum physics, with the Buddhist teaching. So we really tried to do a film where it's possible also for non-Buddhists or people who don't know so much about His Holiness and Buddhism um, to understand what he means. So, I mean, the office gave us total freedom to do the film we wanted. And when we had a rough cut, we showed it to the General Secretary of His Holiness, and they really loved it, what we did. So this was also the chance to get in contact with Richard Gere.
I was just going to ask, and what role did Richard Gere play in? He's listed as an executive producer in the film. How did he come to be on board with this project?
Yeah, we had this incredible chance to show him the rough cut of Wisdom of Happiness, and he came there with his wife Alejandra and with Tenche Gyatso, which is the niece of the Dalai Lama. And they watched it, and Alejandra, the wife of Richard, was crying, and Richard and Tenche were really moved. And Richard said, "Wow, I really believe that it's important to do this film." And he told us that he would love to be part of it, not only as a name as executive producer, but to be part in the editing process. So he invited his good friend Orm Moverman, who's a filmmaker and author, an American, and we set up a screen editing room in New York, and we worked for 2.5 months together to finish the film. So this knowledge of Richard Gere, his incredible engagement for Tibet, for the Tibetan cause, for to spread the word of the Dalai Lama, spread the word of compassion, to really create an antidote to what is happening in the world right now, and to also bring Tibet back on in the news, and that people restart talking about this incredible culture. I mean, yeah, we can all learn so much from this old culture, from this knowledge. And Richard really gave so much from his personal relation he has with His Holiness, and of course also from his Buddhistic knowledge. He's since, I think, 40 years a Buddhist. So it was really incredible working together with him.
That's wonderful. Now, I've had the pleasure of seeing the film twice now, once at the Dharamsala Film Festival last year at the premiere, and then recently in Barrel, which is in regional New South Wales. There's a communal joy in seeing this film with other people in a cinema. Where and how can people see this film around the world?
Yeah, I mean, this is really something Richard always emphasized on. He says, if you look at the people after they have seen together the movie, how this feeling of community, this feeling of kindness with one each other, it's so different than just watching it on a small screen. And we're still bringing it out in theaters. Now it will be shown in theaters in Australia. Right now we're here in New York. It's shown at the theaters. We are opening up in European countries. So also countries which are having, like, say, a political difficult situation they're going through. Yeah, so at the moment it's in theaters, but of course it will go also to a streamer, but for sure only next year.
Have you encountered any issues from streaming platforms who might be unwilling to take this on because it features His Holiness?
I think yes. Till now, no major streamer has taken it. We had extremely difficult time to bring it to America, as the big distributors, they're of course really afraid of any reaction from China, because as soon as, you know, if His Holiness is in a film, be it political or not, it's always political, and the Chinese government doesn't allow distributors, American big distributors who are having a film with the Dalai Lama, to bring their films to China. As we know, for example, Lady Gaga, who met His Holiness, is banned from showing her music. She can't give any concerts in China. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a pressure, I think, on distributors, and we really still hope that we will find also a streamer who will show the film.
Martin Scorsese's 1997 film Kundun, it's a biodrama about His Holiness's early life and the invasion of Tibet by the Chinese Communist Party in 1949. It received 4 Academy Award nominations, yet it's Scorsese's least seen film. Kundun sparked political conflict in China when Disney was expanding its business there. In 1998, the CEO flew into Beijing. He met with China's then premier and apologized for the film. His quote was, this is Disney CEO Michael Eisner, "The bad news is the film was made. The good news is that nobody watched it. I want to apologize, and in future we should prevent this sort of thing which insults our friends from happening." And as a result, Kundun had a limited cinema release and is now not available for streaming anywhere. You know, as filmmakers who are covering His Holiness and Tibet, how does that make you feel? And did you receive any advice not to pursue this project for those reasons?
I mean, we know from filmmakers doing films about His Holiness that their editing room was destroyed. I mean, we really did a lot of security setups we were able to do to protect our editing process not happening, that it's not happening. We heard from some distributors from some countries where the Chinese embassy wrote them a letter to please not show the film in the cinemas, and that they would like to chat. But let's say directly to us, we never had till now a reaction from the Chinese government. But I mean, we all know, I mean, in the film, the Dalai Lama talks about the politics he has since the official politics since 40 years, saying that Tibet should be part of the Communist Union, of the Chinese Union. But of course, most important is to preserve the Tibetan culture and the Tibetan language. And we all know that this year China banned not only Tibetans to speak their language, but also bans the word Tibet and replaced it with some other names. I mean, it's really, how can you, eliminate such an incredible, valuable, beautiful, open culture which tries to bring us all together, and look at it as something that you need to be afraid of. I mean, it's really unbelievable.
Which countries, if you don't mind me asking, received those inquiries from the Chinese embassy where you were hoping to do screenings? And did that impact on the screenings? Were you able to do them? Or did that prevent screenings of Wisdom of Happiness happening?
As far as we know, it was Croatia, but they did a really strong opening, and people embraced the film. And it's a message of peace and of dialogue and of not separating people in we and they, but really bring us all together on one table and realizing that we are all living on the same planet, and that's important that we work together and respect each other, and not putting even more emphasis on division. And this is so important. So I'm really thankful that these distributors, they kept on believing in these messages.
It is unsettling, though, as a filmmaker, to know that your project is on the radar of the Chinese Communist Party, and that their embassies are reaching out and attempting to limit the film's distribution directly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but as we just heard 2 days ago, the Chinese government did so much pressure on a little small film festival here in New York that should have happened with Chinese independent films, and they just canceled it 2 days ago because the pressure was too high. I mean, we were really lucky not being from China, or not, that we're living in Switzerland, let's say in a neutral country, and we still have the chance to speak up and to bring the message of wisdom of happiness really to the public. And I'm so thankful that there are distributors all over the world who really bring the film to the cinema, and that there is audience who is going to watch it and to support also these messages, and the Tibetan cause. And this, I think this is also what is really important in wisdom of happiness, that it's a message of hope, of ways how we can deal with these difficult situations. And I mean, like the Dalai Lama, he never gave up. I mean, he went through so much sorrow, so much difficulties, and he doesn't have any feeling of hatred or of fear or of anger. And he talks about it in Wisdom of Happiness, and that's so beautiful to see. And I think it should give us all this hope and strength to continue and say, no, it's worth going further. It's worth to invest. It's worth to believe in a better future. And I think this is much stronger than, in a way, than repression.
Mm-hmm. And a call out to brave streamers to take this film on and help it be seen by an even wider audience after it's had its cinema run next year. For those who follow the Tibet movement and His Holiness, there have been moments where his fame has helped cast a spotlight onto Tibet, but he is now 90 years old and he can't travel as extensively as he has in the past. And there seem to be less and less mainstream media items about Tibet and the situation there. So this film is a really powerful tool to help rebalance that situation. And the film, as you mentioned, also includes His Holiness's middle way approach to working with China.
About Tibetan situation, I never give up. We are not seeking independence from China. We want to remain within Chinese Union, provided we have the right to preserve our own culture, our own language. I never felt some kind of negative feelings, anger, hatred towards Chinese hardliners. I always make distinction, action and action. As far as action is concerned, stop their wrongdoing, unjust doing. But without anger, without hatred, without violence. As far as actor is concerned, forgiveness.
He has a strong message about never giving up on Tibet, and your film covers the history of the Chinese invasion in 1949 and its aftermath. How challenging was that part of the film to convey?
I think we went to it from a different angle than normally, because we didn't want it to tell a biography about His Holiness. It was we really wanted to focus on his message, but knowing what he went through, and knowing what the Tibetan population had to go through, and how the whole situation developed, I think it really helps to understand how helpful the message of His Holiness is for the world, how much it helps us to overcome dark moments, difficult moments, moments of doubt, moments of fear. And of course, it wasn't easy to find all the material we wanted. It wasn't easy to bring it together in a way that we understand or we can show reality, but it doesn't make you totally desperate, because I mean, it's hard what happened to the Tibetan population. It is still happening, but yeah, we thought it's really important to include it and to tell it also from a today's point of view, and show that it's still going on, that the Tibetan culture is still oppressed, isn't, as I said before, they are not allowed to speak Tibetan. It's not allowed to have an image of His Holiness in Tibet. Instead of embracing it and saying, wow, I mean, also if Tibet is one province, let's say, of China, it has such a rich and wonderful and incredible important message and culture for our world. And China should be proud of such a culture, such a incredible knowledge. I mean, it's not only culture, it's not only religion, it's really an incredible human universal knowledge. And we have to preserve that.
There is a genuine moment of playfulness and humor throughout the film as well. You know, it tackles such major issues, but then there's a lovely moment near the end with one of his Indian security guards near his home. What were those moments like to witness?
Yeah, I mean, he's always in a way playful. He always stays with this kind of lightness, even though, yeah, he knows what tragedy is, he knows what suffering is, he knows what sadness is, but he always tries to be human and being so kind to other people. I mean, touching the security guard's cheek to tell him, hey, it's really good that you're here and what you're doing. It's wonderful to witness something like that. It's really like this human approach to everything, filling your heart with love and kindness and also laughter.
Why do you think His Holiness's wisdom still resonates with the global audience?
Because this wisdom is eternal. I think it's absolutely universal. It's absolutely coming from a space of in between of human beings. It's so deep. And just yesterday, someone said, I mean, if you look at Buddhism, this is really, really like it gives you all the answers to all our questions, all our psychological difficulties. It's the best therapy, this person said, that you could ever have. And I think this is why it's really, yeah, it's the basis of everything.
Barbara, what did you personally take away from making this film? And do you feel like it has changed you in any way?
I think I took a lot from it. One is really like this way of going through the day in my daily life, to be much more calm and have this feeling of, okay, when I'm stressed, I'm just taking a deep breath. I mean, I was meditating before, I was doing yoga, but this is really integrated in everyday's life. It really helped me. The knowledge and the way how His Holiness is talking about these topics, to not forget it anymore. It helps so much. And of course, what I really love is this distinction he makes in between action and actor. He always says, if there is something bad happening, you really should try to stop this acting, the action that is happening, but not with violence, not with anger, but with dialogue or with other peaceful manners. And to always see the human being who is doing it, the actor, as a human being. And it helps so much. Yeah, don't project on others negative things, but to say, okay, it's a human being. The thing this human being is doing is not so good, or it's really horrible, but I shouldn't hate this human being. So we're all human beings. And I think this is it's so deep and so true. And it really changes your perception of the world. And of course, he also says in Wisdom of Happiness that I think over 90% of the negative feelings we have are just projection, and they're not reality. And integrating these different knowledges in my daily life really changed the way how I am in this world. Much more calmer, much more having this feeling of, yeah, okay, I can change myself, but I can also help to change the whole world in a positive manner for the future. And I think this is really, really important for all of us to know that we're not just helpless, but that we can change our inner world and find this happiness His Holiness is talking about. And we can also, working together with others, change the world we're living in. And I think this is so important to always remind us of that.
That's beautiful. My last question was, what would you like audiences to feel and understand? But if audiences can take away even a tiny bit of what you've experienced as the director creating this film, that would be a beautiful, positive outcome.
Yeah, I think it's really what we always hear from the audience who have seen the film, that they feel so calm and really in a way happy after seeing this film. I know people who went there 5-6 times because they wanted to re-experience this feeling of hope and of getting really advice how to manage this daily life, how to manage these difficult times, how to find antidotes and other ways to deal with what is going on, and to really have this feeling of hope, and really have this feeling of we can change together the future, and we really need to do that.
That's wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that you don't think I've covered?
It's wonderful. I mean, it's great talking to you. I'm so happy the film will be shown in Australia, and I hope that many people can see it, and it gives them really this feeling of hope and joy, and that we can really create together a better future.
It certainly does. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone must try and see Wisdom of Happiness. And if they can't make it to a physical screening, we might need to organise DVD distribution or go back to old school methods of just making sure this film gets out there and that everyone can see it. Finally, on Tibet Unfiltered, we are asking our guests the top 3 things that they would like people to know about Tibet and Tibetans.
It's an incredible, beautiful culture. It's an incredible, courageous and strong population. And being together with Tibetans, meeting Tibetans, they are so wonderfully kind and open-hearted, and it's so beautiful to be around Tibetans.
Barbara Miller, thank you so much for joining us for Tibet Unfiltered.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Tibet Unfiltered is a podcast by the Australia Tibet Council, a not-for-profit human rights organisation. We amplify the voices of Tibetans, campaign for their freedom and human rights, and ensure the international community hears their stories against Chinese Communist Party propaganda. I'm your host, Geraldine Nordfeldt. Production by Sonam Gyeltsen. Join us again soon for another episode of Tibet Unfiltered.